we're going to talk about a lot of the important points that I wanted to share with the people that want to turn their Pokemon business into a seven-figure business. But we did $300,000 in revenue in August.
Hey guys, it's been a while. Welcome back to Pokey SMP episode 6. I'm here with my co-host Jesse. How are you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing very well. Been a crazy couple of months, which is why I think we're MI for probably a month, right? 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Since right before Burbank. So I have so much to share. I'm sure Lee has the same. And we're super excited to talk about the business aspect of it because there's a lot that I want to share in terms of how we built up our Pokemon shop actually in the last 3 to 4 months to 5x, 10x the revenue that we did before every month. It was a complete pivot, and there's a lot of things that I think anybody can apply to their businesses. It doesn't even have to be Pokemon. But yeah, just wanted to share some of our experiences and our wisdom, and hopefully we can bring some values to the people that are watching.
Wonderful. Okay, well, let's get right into it then. How to build $1 million Pokemon business. Jesse, you and CJ are running a little small shop in
Yeah.
Vancouver, and you guys have seen explosive growth within the last month, generating over 300K in revenue in the month of August. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So a little background story is the Pokemon shop that we had is strictly a hobby, a passion project for us. We started it late in 2020, and that's actually how we met so many of our Poke friends, and we got invited to go to Pokemon Saves the World, and we met great people like my co-host over here, and also people like Zach, Shiv, Super Duper Danny, Bonnie, all these people in the community. So it was always a passion project for us, but it wasn't really run like a business. It was a place for us to buy collections. It was a place for us to get product from distribution and rip it with our friends. And whatever like profit we made, we pretty much just donated the whole thing to like various charities or to giveaways. So it wasn't run like a business because it wasn't our primary source of income. And what changed was recently, well, not recently, but going into this year, we have a lot on our plates, and I have a lot of companies that I manage on a daily basis. And my wife CJ actually drives to Richmond, which is an hour drive there, an hour drive back. So she was kind of like having a burnout phase, and she was very tired. And I was like, hey, we're not making money at the shop. This is like a great passion project for us, but we've already like kind of like met so many people, and our name is already out there, so we don't really need a physical brick and mortar store anymore. So should we either close the shop or be kind of like I'll be more hands-on and build it into like an actual business where it generates a profit and revenue for to be significant enough to be worth her time, because she's there full time. I'm there like once or twice a week on the weekends, but my wife does the drive every day, right? So she's like, okay, I don't really have the experience in business, so like whatever you want to do, I'm here to help. So that's what she said to me. So I kind of got involved in operations and kind of like pivot our entire business into instead of just like being the friendly neighborhood shop that sells like sealed product and singles to kids. We still do that, but that part is pretty much community service because the margins are so low. Like you make $7 a booster box at release, so
Crazy.
it's basically just a way for you to get the product out to the community and to
Yeah.
competitive scene, right? So I utilize a lot of my like expertise and just my decade long experience in business to kind of like transform, because we're known as high end collectors. But we never really sold many high end stuff at the shop, and I never really spent the time to really turn that into a business. So we're going to talk about a lot of the important points that I wanted to share with the people that want to turn their Pokemon business into a seven-figure business. But we did $300,000 in revenue in August, and an average month was around 25 to 30,000 for us not long before that. So I would say the entirety of 2021, 2022, if we had a 30, 35, or I think if we had a $50,000 month, it would have been a really good month. And so August, when we really went into it, and even in July, I think we had uh close to a six-figure month in July, but August was the month that we took off. So I wanted to share some of our highlights of
Yeah.
our sales in August. It was kind of like documented in a video we posted on CJ's channel. And then we're going to go into the reasons and the driving forces of what happened in the last 3 months. As you can see, there's on the left, it's a 6 PSA 9 Gold Star set, all new cert,
Mm.
super clean. We got the Pikachu, we got the Groudon, we got the Kyogre, Jolteon, Mewtwo, and Metagross. And there's a lot of that. I didn't put all the
Wow.
Gold Stars we sold, but one of the things I'm going to talk about later on is if you want to build a business, you want to build a name for yourself, and you got to build a brand, and you have to find your niche. And for us, we are known as one of the biggest Gold Star collectors in the world because we're the only people that are collecting the pristine 10 English Gold Star set. So already I have all the Gold Star collectors or the people that are into Gold Stars in my DM sending me messages, asking me if I want to buy their PSA 10s, if or if I have any PSA 10s or 9s I want to sell. So that's already there. So as you can see, we bought a lot of Gold Stars and we sold a lot of Gold Stars. You can see the BGS 9 plus Gold Star Charizard over there. We actually sold
Mhm.
it for $6,000 USD, and
Wow.
that's quite a bit higher than a PSA 9 because this particular card is half a grade from a BGS Gem in 9.5, which is a five-figure card. So that's another card, and that card actually utilized some of the other strategies I will talk about later, and that's grading arbitrage. It was regraded, believe it or not, from a
Hmm.
CC 8.5.
Really? Wow.
Yes,
That's
and
a surprise.
it almost made it almost became a BGS Gem 9.5. And the crazy thing about that is that CGC 8.5 used to be a BGS 9 plus. So it was a 9.5999 before that. The person that owned the card before sent it into CGC hoping for the Gemmin 10, but for some reason CGC gave it an 8.5. Looked at the card, I was like, there's no way this is not at least a mint copy. So you have to really look at the card, look at the card for yourself, because a lot of these
Absolutely.
grading companies misgrade cards. It
Yeah.
just happens all the time, right? So I bought it for pretty much the prices of a PSA 8 or BGS week 9 and cracked it. There is some like dust in the back, like some debris that was clearly just probably knocking the surface grade down. It was, we literally removed it just by wiping it off. And immediately it went from a 95999 to half a subgrade higher to a 959,599, which is the strongest mint grade you can possibly get, right?
Yeah.
So there's the Gold Star Charizard. We actually sold multiple at a lower grade, but I only included the ones that are mint and above in our highlights because there's so many. Next to that,
Mhm.
obviously the biggest sales, you see the very clean CGC 10 pair of first edition Charizard and the Shadowless Charizard. So those went for actually above comps because they're so clean. So that's a big chunk of the 300K right there. The CGC 9.5 Gold Star Rayquaza. That again was part of the strategy that I will talk about because in September we already sold 4 or 5 more of those. A lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, I really, 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 really want your pristine 10 Rayquaza." Like people have given me multi six-figure offers for that card with PSA 10's 50K, right? So I have every Rayquaza collector and somebody
Reaching
that
out.
wants or seller in my
Goodness.
DM. So we bought like 7 or 8 Rayquaza Gold Stars above a PSA 9. And that was one of them that sold in August. Next to that, it's part of our Burbank buyout. PSA 9 Crystal Charizard. I believe we sold like a CGC 9 and a BGS 8 as well. We sold multiple Crystal Charizards, but that was the highest one, I believe, in August. We did sell a CGC 10 a couple months back, but yeah, there's the PSA 9 that we sold. And then next to it, obviously, it's the infamous first edition blister that was sold, and it was the first edition Charizard was pulled. Again, maybe it was in our financial interest to not sell it and rip it ourselves, but we're very happy for the person, for the new owner that ripped it, and he took the gamble. He deserves it. So that's just one of the coolest things that ever happened to us. But at the same time, we're a little bit choked because we missed out on the once in a lifetime opportunity to pull a first edition Charizard ourselves.
Wow.
Um, and then below that, we bought like a bunch of packs. The biggest one is that you can see at the very bottom. The 5 packs at the bottom are actually guaranteed heavies, guaranteed shadowless um, heavy packs. And we actually bought them from a seller that was
Mhm.
willing to offer us the authenticity and the hollow guarantee for all 5 of those packs. They're actually temper sealed. So if any of those packs does not contain a shadowless hollow, we are providing our buyer a refund because the previous seller provided us a refund. So the 5 packs down at the bottom is more than $3,500 a pack, and which is pretty much double a regular shadowless pack because of the hollow authenticity guarantee for
Right.
shadowless packs.
Right.
So there's like almost 20K just right there at the bottom, and then every single pack you see at the top we bought and already sold. So it's pretty
Wow.
insane. And the
Lots of
other
high-ends.
exactly, and then the other one was our friend Ethan. Well, he's a friend now, but that was the first time he walked into the shop. This
Mhm. Yeah.
actually he walked into the shop because he saw like the video that we made, a Hey CJ video on the Skyridge booster box that we had at the shop, but
Yeah.
he saw the base set box next to it, which we didn't even talk about, and he was visiting Vancouver, came in and bought it. So it shows the power of
Social
Instagram and
media.
digital marketing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like people randomly walk in and buy a 15 $16,000 USD booster box, and that's something that wouldn't have happened a few months back without CJ's Instagram blowing up. So it's
So
pretty
have you
cool.
seen more increase in foot traffic since, the social media Hey CJ series?
Absolutely, not just foot traffic, but people that reach out wanting to buy stuff, wanting to sell stuff.
Amazing.
Um,
Amazing.
and yeah, just it's just after we rebranded and people know us as high-end collectors, but not like a high-end shop. And now people see us as both a high-end collector and also a shop that has that pays the best prices and has all the inventory for anything high-end. So that's really the pivot that transitioned us into a shop that makes probably around $30,000 a month to $300,000 a month. And I'm going to talk about like some of the details and some of the same business principles you can apply to something of a smaller scale a little bit later on. But
Yeah.
before we do that, I want to just talk about the first week of September. These are all the big cars that we sold so far. So as you can see, we have
Gosh, all Rayquazas? Like,
the PSA
how
9
do you
Gold Star Rayquaza um, English. So that was sold. It was sold just today, I think. It was just being shipped out. The PSA 9, the first that Japanese, and the CGC 10. The CGC 10 is actually one of the coolest Rayquazas I've seen in my life. If you look at it, there's 2 swirls right next to his mouth. Right? Isn't that the coolest swirl you've seen in your life?
wow.
I've never seen that. I've seen like probably 75 Gold Star Rayquazas in grade 9 and 10 and above. And I just haven't seen a swirl that crazy. So this one we actually bought and sold on the same day. I wanted to keep it for myself, but again, this is a friend that reached out in the DMs that really wanted this card. He did me a favor before, so I pretty much sold it to him for like very minimal profit that I probably could have gotten a lot more elsewhere,
For the
but
premium, for the
yeah,
swirl premium?
Swirl premium, but it's still sold for 20K, which is still a pretty good price for a CGC 10. But yeah, I personally would have kept it if it wasn't for a friend that wanted it so bad.
Amazing.
And then next to it, just some shining PSA 9s. it just everything that we've done in September, like I feel like we're also just with the shop having new sets sold, a lot of that we're closing in already on like another 100K month in the first week
Wow.
and a half. So it's pretty insane how fast we've grown. And obviously, when we say these numbers, I don't want people to be like, "Oh, there's we're not talking about profit here. We're talking about revenue, right?" And as
Right.
I talk about it later on in some of my tips, um, the margins are not as high as some of the other resellers out there or shops would try to do. And what we do is my business. Mentality is just completely different. A lot of the times I sacrifice margins and short-term profit for building a reputation as both a buyer and a seller and bring value to both sides. So that means we're gonna have to make less per deal, which I'm totally fine with when we can like I only spend 5 to 10 hours a week. All of these high-end deals are pretty much put together by myself, and I only spend like 5 to 10 hours a week because I'm a really busy person. And I'm actually considering hiring someone to just like
Mhm.
reply and do what I do on my DMs and stuff like that because I just don't have time to check. And yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
pretty
speaking
crazy.
of reputation, you guys are gaining a lot of recognition. Like CTV, national TV has reached out to
Yeah.
you guys to do a segment. Can you tell us like when that will be?
Yeah.
A little bit more?
So we're recording this episode on September 11th. So yeah, 9/11. Um, and by the time this episode airs, it would have already been on TV. So maybe we can put a clip right here.
Pokemon trading cards saw a major boom during the pandemic, and in some cases, rare finds can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And the pack was purchased at Van City Pokemon in Richmond, where business is booming.
The month of August is crazy. We sold over $300,000.
The couple, Jesse and CJ, who co-own the shop, credit the record-setting month to their social media, attracting avid collectors from all over the country.
The first edition stamp.
Military vet Ethan Pritchard visited from Calgary, spending tens of thousands on items he calls both an investment and his passion.
Pokemon was and still is something that I grew up with.
Peng and his wife have an impressive collection of their own that could fetch them a fortune, but say it's not about the money.
We're genuine collectors, and some of these cards I will never sell.
And while some collectors have scored big, Peng offers a warning.
This is not a guarantee, right? It could be worth a lot less tomorrow. If you're not into Pokemon, don't be in it. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
But he says Pokemon collectors aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and the shop is set to expand. Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Richmond.
Thursday, September 12th, they're coming to the shop at noon, right before it opens. I usually don't go to the shop on Thursdays, but I'm going there for this TV interview. They actually called my wife CJ yesterday, and she was on the phone, and it was her day off, so I was next to her, and I was like, "Yo, like, what's happening?" She's like, "Oh, I think a scammer. Someone's saying they're CTV. They want to ask us a bunch of questions." And then she was about to hang up. I was like, "Wait a minute, like." This guy sounds pretty legit because I've dealt with media people before, right? So he's asking all the right questions. He's trying to like make sure everything is verified, verifiable at the very least. So I talked to him, and yeah, it's a legit reporter that saw the video on CJ's Instagram channel talking about her biggest month in August, and he was fascinated and blown away at how like some cards can be like tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
Yeah.
he was like, I really want to do a story. Do you have more to tell? So that is we spent the last like 2 days answering different questions, like sending him proof because they have to verify that our claims are true. So I sent them so
Right.
many things. I was also a little bit frustrated. I was like, I don't want there's a lot of things we can't send due to privacy of our customers and ourselves, right? But he's
Right.
like, yeah, in order for me to do the story, I have to verify everything. So, I
It's
appreciate the due diligence. But we
yeah.
spent probably like 2 hours on the phone and over a text message, sending them like proof, evidence, everything. And they're coming to the shop tomorrow to do an episode, to do a 2-minute segment actually, which is going to be aired later tomorrow night. So we're going to be recording. Hopefully, we don't miss it because we don't really put on cable TV anymore and watch the
Right.
news. But it's still pretty exciting times to see how the shop has gained this much
So
notoriety
much
over the
recognition.
last few months. Yeah.
Yeah, just from that one reel. That's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. Hopefully it turns out good because sometimes they
Oh,
have
I'm
the
sure it will.
ability to twist some words and have a different narrative where it
Oh,
might generate some hate online. I'm already anticipating it, but at the end of the day, like it's like people can say what they say, but it's still like publicity, which is still going to be good for the shop.
I agree. Yeah, I'm excited. Seems like there's going to be a lot more recognition and hopefully more foot traffic to your store after that segment airs.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know about our shop, it's very small right now, right? It's like less than 300 square
Mm.
feet, so it's like a little hole in the wall. And I've wanted to expand to a bigger shop, and my wife, being the introvert that she is, always refused. She's like, "I love my cozy little shop, you know. I want to just hang out with a few friends. I don't want people to sit around and just try and talk to me like for 8 hours straight." Even though she loves like her customers, but sometimes there are some weird people that
Sure.
are just coming into shop to see her and just talk to her, right?
Yeah.
So she's like, if I have a bigger shop, there's gonna be like 10 people just sitting there wanting to talk to me. And I was like, hey, like we just need a bigger shop. I finally convinced her to get a bigger shop. So we are
Oh,
going to be
nice.
moving locations to somewhere that's more than double the size of our current shop. It's still gonna
Amazing.
be relatively small, but we're gonna have like 10 tables and we're gonna have run some tournaments there because before it was so small that we couldn't run tournaments for the tournaments like don't make any money. It's really for the kids, for the scene, for the community. And we
Yeah.
just wanted to do that for a long time. But finally we have the ability to really expand. And we actually hired 2 employees to help out CJ so she doesn't have to do everything herself and go to the shop every day. So it's really a blessing.
Yeah. I can't wait. Seems like you guys have a lot that's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Moving into a new shop, all the logistics. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um, do you want to move on to some of the show recap?
Yeah.
What
All right.
Burbank?
Okay, so this is a very good segment to lead into the more specific advice that I want to give to anybody that wants to expand their business, not just in Pokemon, but just it could be in any other industry. It could be retail, it could be tech, it could be marketing, finding clients for your agency. Like the most important things are all the same. Like the business principles could be applied everywhere. But I wanted to use this Burbank card show and what I did here as like entry into that world, so I can kind of like show people what I did and what's how I'm doing things a bit different from your average Pokemon business owner or reseller on the market. So on the left, you can see these are not packs or cards that we sold, but are I would say like half of our purchases that we made at Burbank in that 3-day show. Every single gold star and shining you see here is grade 9 or 10. So there are no like 5s or 6 or 7s. I went around the show and pretty much bought every PSA 9 plus gold star there was from all the vendors. And people are
Wow.
going to say, like, why would you do that? One of the points I'm going to give is to find your niche, build your brand, and stay consistent with it. And like I said, one of our niches is really to focus on the gold stars, the high end gold stars, because we are high end gold star collectors ourselves.
Mm.
So I went around and bought every single one of these at the minimum of 90% comps. Like some of them I bought for 95% and 100% comps. And to me, I don't really care because I do believe in the long-term market for these gold stars because they're the most sought after set in English, right? Or in Pokemon TCG.
Yeah.
And if I buy them at 90, 95% and they don't sell in the next like 2, 3, 4, 5 months, I do believe they will appreciate going into the 30th anniversary. So I'm okay. And I'm very fortunate to be very liquid. So I don't need to move anything if I don't want to, right? So I'm going around the show, bought everything for 90, 95%. And while I'm doing that, there's a method to madness and there's a strategy to it. I am building up my reputation and my track record as a buyer. right? So most of the
Mm.
people that are doing this don't really think about that side. They think of it as like a one-sided market. I want to build my reputation as a seller. You know, I want to sell stuff for good prices. I want to sell a lot. But the money is really not made when you sell. It's made when you buy. You want to buy good inventory. You want to buy stuff that fits your brand, that fits your audience. But you also want people to know that you're a good, reliable buyer. So they will come to you with the good stuff first. So I've been doing that online a lot, but I don't go to a lot of shows in person. So this is such a big show. I went around, I made sure everybody knew I was a big buyer and I will buy the stuff that I want at 90%. Right. And everybody came to me and sold me all their good stuff. And everyone's like vouching for me. There's like, oh, like Jesse's a great. And the thing with me is obviously I'm in a very fortunate situation that I pay cash. I don't do any trades. Right. So when you have cash and you pay 90%, everyone's going to want to sell you their good stuff. So that's what I did. And most of these things I bought at 90%, including the packs a little bit lower. But all of the high end slabs I bought at 90%, sometimes 100. And as you can see, like on the right side, like we bought so many that we have doubles. All 6 of those gold stars on the right, the Pikachu, Groudons, and Mewtwo's, they're new cert PSA 9s. Very, very clean, right? So we had so many of these that we had doubles for like half the things that we bought. It's pretty crazy.
Have you sold them, or are you planning on cross grading them?
Okay, so the three on the right I sold to one person. As you can see in the previous graph, there's 6 gold stars PSA 9s that I sold to one collector. So half of them are sold. Most of them are actually almost every pack that you see here is already sold, just because people went crazy and just ripped everything. I bought all the packs from the shop, and then there's one client that bought all the heavy shot packs. Most of them are sold, but there are a few clean ones that felt like were undergraded that I sent to either CGC or sent back to PSA, which I will talk about later on, about like the grading arbitrage and keeping up to date on the different grading standards for different grading companies, because believe it or not, there are grading companies that are stricter during certain periods and more lenient during other periods. And right now is a very good time to submit to PSA because the 95 mil certs are very, very lenient. So there's a lot of PSA 9 vintage that I cracked that I sent back to PSA that got PSA 10s. I'm not going to like list everything here. There's a few that's coming back, but you will see some of them for sale. And again, I think they're deserving 10s, but PSA was pop controlling vintage hollows very, very hard, high-end vintage. But for some reason, the 93, 94, 95 mils, like recently, they have been giving a lot of 10s. So if you buy really strong PSA 9s in the 65 to 85 mil range, a lot of them, if you find the right ones and crack, like so far, success rate is like 60% to get 10s.
Wow, that's really interesting. They're loosening up the grading
Yes.
standards a little bit. I
Yeah.
might have to test that out and crack some of my slabs and send them in and to see how it goes.
Especially the Japanese high-end vintage. They are very lenient. There are some gold stars that we've seen that has edge wear on every edge, and they still got PSA 10s.
Wow. Is there a specific tier, or is it just all that you've noticed, even the bulk tier, that have gotten better
Okay,
grading?
so not the specific tier, but we did submit it through a platinum. Well, we are submitting it through a platinum account that we're doing recently. But even with the bulk tiers that we submitted, we noticed significantly more lenient grades that are given to vintage hollows, which is not the case 2, 3, 4 years ago. At least from my experience, PSA have been pop controlling a lot of the vintage big cards, but at least for the last month and a half, I felt like the standards have loosened up quite a bit. And that includes cross grading some clean CGC Gem in 10s into PSA 10s. The success rate's been pretty high, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, we did choose some clean undergraded 70, 80 mil PSA 9s to cross to PSA 10s or CGC Gem in 10s.
So interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the video, and this tips to building a successful Pokemon business. For some reason, there's two businesses, but yeah, you know what's going on. So first thing I'm just going to share from our personal experience is content is king, and finding a formula that matches your brand is very important. So I utilize a lot of our my personal experience running a digital marketing company in the last 3-4 years, and I learned a lot from my partners and my employees because I personally I'm not a marketing person. I'm very passionate about building companies, but I did learn a lot from running that marketing company. So I give all the credit to my employees and my partners for teaching me and showing me the ropes. I just applied a lot of the same principles from our real estate marketing company to our Pokemon business. Her account is our business, and as you can see, we started the Hey CJ series about a month and a half ago. And we started with, hey, CJ, what's going on with this? My character in the video is just a very curious person that knows nothing about Pokemon. And obviously, there's a comedic tone to what I talk about. And people sometimes in the comments are saying, well, why is this guy so dumb? Right. But that's the whole goal. There's a lot of new people that are into the hobby that don't know anything. Right. So I want to be that person. I want to be their entry point into the Pokemon space. And I want to have the content bring value to our audience. That's the most important thing, because it's very easy to go viral online with a 7-second comedic clip, because people can watch a 7-second funny video over and over again. You can get like 10, 20, 30, 40 million views, but they're not going to have a lot to take away other than a quick laugh, right? So I don't want to do that, because that would not convert to businesses and retention of the audience. So we wanted to sacrifice some of that virality for value that we bring, and this will bring more attention to like the brand as a whole, and also loyalty to our brand and page as well, right? So we start by asking a question. Hey CJ, why is this card and this card look the same, but this one is like 100 times more expensive? And then CJ explains why. And most people don't really know most of the questions that we talk about. And a lot of people didn't know that CJ had a shop before he started this. So every single video was recorded at the shop. And obviously we show things that are at the shop that we don't talk about, but people look at and actually inquire about, right? So everything is strategic. We bring value. We want people to have a similar expectation of every video, to learn something from every video, but at the same time be entertained and kind of see what's new at the shop. You know, sometimes we have a new like we just bought a big all our PSA 10 collection, for example. We're going to be showcasing some of that in the Hey CJ video, even if it's not about those things. So we showcased in the case a bunch of like the new gold stars and shining Pokemon that we bought in our last video, even though it wasn't about it. But a lot of people see that case and be like, hey, can I buy that PSA 9 shiny Charizard in the case, right? So everything is strategic, but you have to be engaging. You have to bring value and find a formula that works, and repeat it consistently. We try and post at least 1 or 2 a week. Sometimes we're busy and we can't. But if you're consistent and repeat, and people have a certain expectation that is met every single time, that creates consistency, and that creates a voice that connects with your audience. So that is so important. I think that's the number one driving force to the increased revenue and the business. And everything is organic, right? Everything that I did was done on an iPhone, and I'm not a great editor on CapCut. It takes me 15 minutes to edit a video. Like literally that's it, because it's so easy. I just cut the parts that are not interesting, make it as condensed as possible, put like a generic Pokemon background music on there, use the auto generated captions,
Yep.
spend like 2 minutes correcting some of the typos.
Uh-huh.
Boom, that's it. Anybody can do it. We spent no
Anybody can.
money boosting any of the posts. We spent no money on editors or anything. We just recorded ourselves, and anybody can do it, right? So there's one video that's about to hit 400,000 views, and that's like a minute. That's like a 45-second video. It's not a 7-second comedic video. It's a 45-second video that's about to hit 500,000, hopefully in the next.
I consider that viral.
Yeah, exactly. Well, It's like well, in the short form content world, like a million there's a lot of videos that hit a million, but to me, like it's still a different level of value. Like if you can have 45
Super.
second informative video that hits 500,000 views, is a lot more value than a 10 million view 7-second funny video, you know, because
So
people are
true.
not going to remember that. They're just going to scroll through it, they're going to laugh at it, they're going to see 20 more of those today. But if they watch your 45-second video and they saw the entire thing through, they're going to remember that. 500,000 people see it is a lot of people. And you can see from our analytics that video out of that 45-second clip, I believe the average watch time is like 29 seconds or something like that.
Wow, that's actually incredible because
Yeah, it's
people's
insane.
retention is poor.
Yeah,
But
so
that's really good.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like you got to really find your niche and build your and just build your brand and bring value to your people and just really put your time and effort into the content and be consistent with it once you find a winning formula. And constantly like you got to like refine it. Obviously, people might get tired of it. But as long as you're consistent and you keep refining it, like it's just like it's gonna do wonders. It's gonna 2, 3, 4x your business over the span of 2, 3 months already just by doing content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
incredible.
the next point is also very counterintuitive because this actually came from a conversation that I had with a friend who walked into the shop who owns a shop in Edmonton, Canada. Right. So quality over quantity. There's a lot of people that I talk to. I'm consulting a lot of my shop owner friends now about how to really grow their businesses. They're like, "Hey, Jesse, like I see you basically ran this store for like 2 months and you're doing crazy numbers. You got to give me some points." And I listened to all of them, and almost all of them have the same mistake. They think a
Hmm,
$10,000 card or a high-end card um, is a huge risk to take on. They're like, "Oh, I'd rather buy like $200 cards because, well, like, what if I can't sell that $10,000 card? Like I have $10,000 tied up. Like that's really hard to sell." But in our Pokemon space, that is not the case. It is so much easier to sell a $10,000 card than 50, $200 cards. For example, there are only so many PSA 9 or CGC Gem N 10 Crystal Charizards on the market at once. There's probably 2 or 3. When I sold mine, there was one other one that's on the market listed by Kanto Shark, and we listed it at the same price. I was like 8,000 USD. So if somebody wants to buy that Crystal Charizard, they're going to have to go to me or him. Like at that time, obviously there's so many more now and so many more before, but at the same time, you're not going to have more than 5 of those listings available at the same time,
mhm,
right? And Pokemon is such a big hobby that the people that are between the ages of like 30 to 40 years old are just coming into adult money. And there's a finite number of big cards that any one of us will want to buy at that price at any time. So there's a lot more demand than supply at the top of the food chain for Pokemon and collectibles in general than there is at the bottom. For example, a $200 PSA 9 Umbreon V All Art, for example. You know, I did some market research as an example when I was consulting my friend. There are 39 listings on eBay of that card alone, right? That card
mhm.
has like a population of like 12,000 or something.
Yeah,
And you're
crazy.
talking about competing with like maybe 50 or 60 different sellers of that same card. And you got to sell like 50 of those cards. What makes you so special that people have to buy that from you? It
That's so
takes me
true.
so much longer to sell a single $200 card than it is for me to sell one $10,000 card. So quality over quantity. The reason why I want to use this advice and tell all of my business owner friends is because like my Edmonton shop friend told me, hey, like this is what I do. I sell 2,500 singles a month. Now I work 12 hours a day, and I sell it on my site. And I do so much quantity. Like it's volume is king. I was like, how much money did you make? He's like, oh, like made like I don't know. I think 6,000-7,000 USD equivalent, right? And then paid himself like 2 or 3K and then put the rest into the inventory. I was like, that's crazy. That's a crazy amount of time we're dedicating into doing this um, to make not a lot of money, right?
Right.
And yeah, he's like, yeah, quantity, volume. He's such a smart kid doing everything because he just started too. But I was like, if you think about it, if you just like change your outlook a little bit, instead of selling your 50 or $100 cards, or like he's selling 2,000 $3 cards, right? But to sell one or two 10,000 or like $5,000 cards, if you market yourself correctly to the right people, that will go, and you'll be working 5 hours a week instead of 12 hours a day, to do all the packaging and shipping and trying to like send it to different groups, every Facebook group, like with the timestamps. Like that's so much work, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. It
Um,
is.
but yeah, so quality over quantity. Focusing on high end is kind of like a cheat code in Pokemon. Even if you only have 5,000 or 10,000, let's say you only have $5,000, buying three $1,500 cards is so much better at a good price. Obviously, you want some margin at a good percentage. It's so much better than just buying like $1,500 cards. And the crazy thing is, there's less risk at the top because your $1,500 Moonbryon or $1,500 PSA 10 Dark Charizard from 1999 or 2000, that is not going to drop to like 1,000 or 900, right? It's going to
Mhm.
stay fairly consistent at 1,500. But your $250 Greninja all art might drop to like $120, right? If you have like 100 of those smaller cards that are modern, the price fluctuations and volatility is so much higher than at the top. So you think it's a bigger risk buying a big card? I'm telling you that is factually incorrect. It's actually a way bigger risk to buy a bunch of modern smaller cards because those cards might drop 50 to 70% few months from release. People don't understand that concept, but there's a lot more risk in buying the smaller cards than there is buying the bigger cards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. For the modern cards, you have to sell it right away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time constraint to it. But with the higher rarity cards, like the high end vintage slabs, I don't think you have like a time limit where you must sell.
Yeah. And so this is what I'm saying. It's very counterintuitive because most people think, my God, like that's a big risk I'm taking buying a $5,000 card. Well, I'm telling them, hey, it's a big risk that you're taking buying $150 cards. Right? So all right, so that's number 2. Number 3 is find your niche in the space and build your reputation and brand. And that's kind of like something I touched on before. You got to find something that you genuinely collect, because Pokemon and just collectibles in general is driven by passion. It's different from the other spaces. It's not just, people can see it from a mile away if you are only in it for the money. And if you're only in it for the money, my suggestion is find something else to do, right? So think about what you love the most and what you genuinely like collecting the most, because if you love collecting those cards, you're going to know the most about them. You're going to have a pretty good idea of if it's going to go up and down and sideways, right? So what I'm mostly known for, even though I love like collecting a lot of cards, but I think I'm mostly known for my pristine 10 Gold Star set and having the only pristine 10 Gold Star Rayquaza in the world, right? So because of that, like I mentioned, I already see like 10 people, 20 people in my DMs every week asking to sell me stuff or asking me to sell them some of my leftover PSA 10s that I failed to cross the pristine. I have a lot of those, right? So I already have that audience and I already have that branding where anything Gold Star, people come to me immediately. So that's why I focused on building my reputation and brand around the high-end Gold Stars. And that's why I started to kind of like trickle down to CJ's shop as well, because we're linked together. And I wanted her to tell everyone, hey, like if you have like PSA 9, 10 Gold Stars, like we're paying like 90%. And the crazy thing is, at the Burbank show, there's a big Gold Star collector that sold a big chunk, pretty much like half of the Gold Stars are from one person, right? That person sold all the English Gold Stars to the shop that's right across from us, because they actually saw him first. And I bought all the leftover Japanese Gold Stars, and then I bought all of the English Gold Stars that the other shop bought for high, like 10%, 15% higher than what they paid as well. So pretty much the entire lot went to me, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy them. I don't care what cost, right? And the crazy thing about this, there's like a little bit of I would say there's some tricks that you can do. Not really tricks because it's all very transparent. When I buy 90%, um, it's obviously a fair market valuation, finding the average of the comps at 90%. And people are very willing to sell it at that price. But when you do sell it, because people do come to me and they know that I am a very good seller, I'm very reliable, they are willing to pay 100% of the higher comps. So sometimes, even though it sounds like it's only 10%, but it could be like 15 or 20%. And 15-20% of a $10,000 deal is still like $1,000 or 1,500, right? So there are some things that you can play around. I'm not saying like buy it for like 90 and sell it for 150, but what I do is I'm okay with taking a smaller margin, but at the same time, you buy at 90% of the average comps, and then you can sell it for 100% of the higher comps, most likely, because people want these cars. They want it really bad. And like I said, there's only one or two on the market at all times. They will pay your price, even if it is slightly over comps. So that leads us into the next point: buy high and sell fair. Establish your reputation as both a good buyer and a good seller. I think this is the most important thing, other than the content part, that you can take away, because we are taught from a very young age that successful business people buy low and sell high. I'm gonna be here to tell you guys that couldn't be further from the truth. Because if anybody has studied economics and studied game theory, the reason why people win, like the most optimized way of doing business, is actually making sure everyone in the economy or in this ecosystem wins together, optimizing it for everybody, right? So this is an I win versus we win mentality. And what I want to say is, not only is doing this good for your reputation as both a buyer and a seller, because you want people to know you're a good buyer. You pay cash, you pay right away, you pay good prices so people can sell you their good stuff. But at the same time, you want other people to win as well, so they can keep referring you to their friends and their friends, right? So maximizing the profits on every deal will really cost you long term. I have a few friends that's come to me and say, hey, like I used to like buy these collections at 30-40%. But I feel like in the last 6 months, that's really dried up and I can't find these collections anymore. And I told him, yeah, because every single person that used to sell to you is selling to me, because I'm paying a lot higher than you, because I can. I built my reputation, I built my brand, and I'm able to sell it for 100% comps. But at the same time, at 100% comps, it gives me the opportunity to buy stuff at 80, 85, 90% and still be okay with it. And that benefits the people that are selling to me that will keep selling to me, right? So buying high and selling fair is a better long-term play than trying to maximize every dollar. And most people don't have the vision, the discipline, or the experience to be doing that, because your reputation as a good buyer is probably more important than your reputation as a good seller. You got to take care of both sides of the market. So that's a very important point. So like an example of what I did is, like, for example, the Gold Star set that I bought, English, was $10,000 that I spent on that set. I sold it to a big Gold Star collector for, I believe, like it was like 107%. So like 7% on that big lot. Both sides were super happy with me, and they will keep coming back to me. And I think the buyer actually came back and bought like one more Gold Star Rayquaza from me.
Wow.
And I'm like, and that's a very, very big buyer, very big collector. And he's like, I'm only going to be dealing with you. And the same with the people that sold it to me. He's like, hey, Jesse pays fairly well. They wrote like a very good review on Facebook and on Instagram, and telling people, hey, like if you got high-end cards, go to Jesse and sell it to Jesse because he will take care of you, which I do, right? Again, people aren't going to be mad if you make money on a deal if you pay them their fair share, and if they're being treated well. So most important thing is to take care of both sides of the market, and don't just think about yourself. Win together is way better than winning yourself in the long term, and optimizing the process for everybody from both sides.
Yeah, I love the we win mentality bullet point. I love that.
Yeah. So if there's one thing that you can take away from this, I hope the buy high, sell fair, and I win versus we win mentality. That's the one point I want people to take away from. All right, the last one is take advantage of the grading arbitrage and opportunity and stay on top of the newest grading standards and the trends, right? And again, this could change in a week because people over these grading companies, they like overcorrect themselves sometimes, right? I remember there was a period in the 63 to 65 mil when they were super strict. Like everything was getting 8s and 9s and 7s, just like some 7s or 6s that you regrade in the era right after in the 68 mil era that you got 10s, right? So this 93 to 96 mil so far has been very lenient for vintage, at least comparably to before, which is something that I noticed and try to take advantage of right away. A lot of people did take advantage of it. Our friend Oscar and Daisuke TCG, those guys, like they show me some pictures of the newest Japanese Gold Star PSA 10s with crazy whitening in the back and off center in the front. And that's when I realized, oh, damn, I was like, PSA right now is super lenient. But again, they might change and correct it in 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So you got to stay on top of the trends. And right now, CGC Gem 10s, the PSA 10 for modern has been working very well. The only thing about that is the CGC Gem 10s are closing in on the prices for PSA 10s for modern cards. So there's less of an opportunity now than it was before because, like I said, the market catches up, right? So I feel like that's less of a play now than it was 2 months ago. But the 70 to 80 mil PSA 9s, the 95 mil PSA 10s, and CGC Gem 10s, that's a play that's been working very well for me in the last 2 months, and I've been doing it. And sometimes you make 100 or 150% profit just by grading the cards, getting the rightful grades to your cards, sending it to different companies, or even cracking it and sending it to the same company, right? Including that Gold Star Charizard that we regraded from a CGC 8.5 to a BGS 9++. It's not, I bought that card knowing that card is a BGS 9 to 9.5 condition card. It was just in a wrong label. And if you can identify the cards in the wrong labels, you're going to be very profitable. And so far, like my hit rate is around 60-70%. So very profitable there. And also CGC Pristine 10s to BGS black labels for modern. Very people don't really understand how tough it is to get CGC Pristine 10s for modern. It's on average like 15 or 14%. And BGS gold 10s are like 25%. And PSA 10s are like 60-70%. So there's a lot of CGC Pristine 10s that are selling for like only 20% over PSA 10 prices that you can convert and regrade to BGS black labels. So now this is not going to be a 60-70% success rate. You're going to have to GCR it over and over again. But there's been a lot of success from people that are doing this for modern cards at the very least, converting CGC Pristine 10s to BGS black labels. And the GCR, or graded card reviews that are that BGS has been doing at shows, is actually very cheap. It's $20 per card. So let's say you have a $2,000 Latias Latios PSA 10. You have to review it 10 times, which is very stupid, right? But you're taking advantage of the grading arbitrage before tag becomes like the grading standard. So you have the opportunity to take advantage of this. Regrading it 10 times or reviewing it 10 times in a PSA 10 slab only costs you $200. So you're in it for 2,000 plus 200, 2,200. If it successfully gets regraded to a BGS black label, that's instantly a $10,000 card, right? So a lot of the CGC Pristine 10s are very close to black labels. And if you just review it around 5 to 10 times, it will eventually hit that black label. For modern, I'm not talking about vintage, is very far off, only for modern, right? So that's another play that's been very successful for a lot of people that people don't really know. CGC Pristine 10s are only 20-30% over PSA 10 prices for modern, when the black labels are 5, 6, 7x sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's another play that you can take advantage of. Again, if you just applied all of these to maybe your 10, 20, $30,000 Pokemon business, I'm pretty confident you can at least double or triple that in a couple of months. And yeah, that's just one more step away from building $1 million Pokemon business or a collectible business in general. So again, I think a lot of these things that I talked about is pretty counterintuitive and not a lot of people talk about in this space. So I hope to bring value to people and people that hear for the first time, because I think it's very straightforward to me. And what I realized, it's not to most of the people that are reselling in this space. So I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, those are really good information. I mean, watch and listen to a lot of podcasts and Pokemon content, but this is definitely not something that I normally hear. What I normally hear is grade modern cards and then sell it quickly, as quick as possible. That's sort of the things that I've been hearing, is that the moderner, the better. And so this is definitely something that is fresh, and I feel like people should take advantage of following your advice to build $1 million business.
Yeah. And I think we're on track to hit our first $1 million year already coming up at the end of this
Incredible.
month. So
Crazy.
um again, I still want to stress that we're still only doing this because we love Pokemon, because
Yeah.
I can make money doing anything. But the income and the revenue from this is significant enough for us to put more money into our collection, because most of the money that's made through the shop, whether we profit like $2,000 a month or $100,000 a month, it's pretty much just more money for us to put towards our collection. We're not really taking money to pay for our mortgages or buy food or vacations. Most of it is either put back into inventory or put into our personal collection, because this is what we're passionate about. And we're just so happy because now we have actually more capacity to hire more people, and also to give back more, to give away more things back to the community. And towards the end of the year, hopefully we can donate a lot to the Children's Hospital this year because of the tremendous success that we've had.
That's very kind of you guys. So, as a business owners, have you guys been encountering any type of scams? I know there's been a lot of scams going around in the Pokemon community specifically, which I feel like that's something that we should touch on. Um, Lately, I've been hearing a lot about chargebacks
Hmm.
from the customer side.
Hmm.
So, have you had any experience? Because I have some tidbits to share as well.
So when we first opened the shop, it was very devastating for CJ to encounter like three chargebacks back to back to back. Like, she was crying. It was like $300 chargeback the first time. The second time was like 500, and the third time was like 400. And every time that happened, she's like, "Oh, like I literally, this is like our entire week." So she was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
they took the product and they got the money back." So I remember how devastating it was for a small shop to go through chargebacks. It's so much so that she kind of like moved away from putting anything on the shop. Like, the shop was the site, like the online site, was pretty much only updated in the last like 2 months. When I convinced her, I was like, "Hey, we got to do this. Like, I understand there's chargebacks in the past, but the chargebacks in 2020 really like stopped her from updating the site, because she's like, I don't
Mm.
want people to buy online, because if they buy online, there's always an opportunity for them to charge back."
Yeah.
And thankfully, in the last little bit, chargebacks have not been so much a thing, because we've only been selling them to like verified people. Like, we have to talk to them and kind of like get a good feel of they're legit or not. But we have encountered a lot of scams where recently we actually had someone steal a Poncho Pikachu Y. Charizard Y. It's like a $3,000 card from the shop. We're pretty confident it was one of the customers, but unfortunately, we found out like 3-4 weeks after, and on that day, the surveillance footage is already deleted, like after 2
Oh
weeks.
no.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
remember I was like a couple days ago, I was like, "Hey, like what happened to our Poncho Pikachu Charizard Y?" And she's just like, "I haven't seen it since that day," because I actually bought it
Oh
from a show. We
no.
took it back to the shop. We showed a bunch of people, and it was left on the counter. And then apparently from that day forward, no one's ever seen that card again. So we have a good idea of who came and stole it, but that card is gone forever. And obviously, we're pretty open about the couple times where we had our packages stolen at customs. Um, it's like we've had over 5 figures worth of cards stolen from packages shipping. So that's something that we've had a huge problem with in this past year. But also, one of our friends that has a shop in Vancouver, recently had someone make a fake transaction screenshot and showed them and took the $4,000 worth of cards home. I've actually sent all the information to Rattle. He's making a video about it apparently. So my friend is not so fluent in English, so I put together an evidence report for him and sent it to a bunch of people. And hopefully we can raise awareness. And I have the screenshot of this guy's face, his Instagram account, his company, like everything. But it's really tough for you to get the card back because I mean you can't just like go into their house, right? Like
Oh yeah, it's
maybe I
impossible to
shouldn't be. Yeah, we have
but
a plan, but I'm not going to talk about that plan of getting the card back.
well, once a person is confirmed a scammer, then I think it's fair game to warn the public about the person who participated in the scam and
Yeah,
just publicize it to inform other people so they don't get scammed, right? So I
yeah,
think, Rattle is doing a pretty good job of doing that and making it known to the public and spreading awareness.
yeah, 100%.
And recently, I got scammed for 3 Evolving Skies booster boxes. It was about $1,100, and that is what I want to touch on too. Is that this is one of the initial red flag. So Evolving Skies have shot up incredibly, and 1,100 for 3 Evolving Sky booster boxes is like 360 or something like that per
Mhm.
box, which is, right now the boxes are selling for $600 to $700
Yes.
according to TCG Player.
Yeah.
So that is
That's
one of
awful.
the red flags that you would look for. So as a consumer, some of the advice I want to offer to you guys, to the viewers, is that we have to look for the red flags.
Hmm.
And so if the deal is too good to be true, it probably is. And I can't emphasize this enough. Things can happen, people get desperate. One of the scammer that has scanned me for the 1100 was a trusted member of the community, and actually Rattle did a segment on this as well. And I actually had to check references prior to the deal going down with this guy with 2 other community members, and they all verified that he is a trustworthy seller. But still, that obviously did not work out. And so that's why I want to emphasize that you have to just pay attention and look for the red flags. So, too good to be true, likely it is. And another thing to look for is that for that person specifically, he was trying to rush into completing the deal. Like he was trying to push to make me make like an immediate decision and not give me too much time to think about deal going down or asking others for opinions. He was like, "Oh, you have to buy this item right now," something along that line, or this is going to go to another person. But also, one thing that I made sure is that I protected myself with paying with a protective payment method. So I used PayPal goods and service, and that gives you a layer of protection or buyer protection instead of using friends and family or Zelle or Venmo or other form of payment plans that does not offer buyer's protection. So always make sure that you're using goods and service and have some level of protection while doing transaction. And check references. But yeah, asking for references and checking them and making sure that they have some type of reputation in the community. Like we always want to make sure that you're dealing with trustworthy sellers and someone just that has a good reputation and a good standing member of the community. There's a lot of trustworthy sellers in the community, such as Jesse and CJ and ZNG Emporium, Catch 'em All Collectibles, Canto Shark. Those are all, I would say, sellers that I would trust 100%. Jesse, do you have any other like advice and tips on your end?
Yeah, I think you touched on most of them. Just to add to it, I think the number one red flag is if it's too good to be true is absolutely always too good to be true, right? Um, Most of the time things can be avoided if you just look at first of all, their motivation, usually the backstory of, hey, like I need the money. I found it in my attic. It's one of my relatives that passed away. Like these are very common stories that makes you believe maybe, hey,
Yeah.
this is why they're selling it for like 30% market, but that's almost never the case. The reason why you are connected to them is because they're targeting you. It's not that easy to find people that is just perfect to sell your the cards you found in your grandma's attic, right? So
Yeah.
it's the fact that that person is able to get on Instagram or Facebook and find you means they have some sort of knowledge of the value of the cards or the products they're selling. Not just cards, but in any industry. It could be like a company, it could be uh a car, especially a car. Like you go to a used car dealership, if a car is supposed to be worth like 50,000, but they're selling for 24, like why are they doing that? They're not doing charity
Makes
work,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say that's a number one red flag. If it's too good to be true with some kind of a weird backstory, it just like you just walk away. Um, there
Yeah.
was so this is seems like a little bit away from like what normal people buy, but I do like cars and I buy and sell, well, not like for profit, but when there's cars that are for good deal, I buy them. And there's a Ferrari California T from a shop that was selling it for around 100 and like $15,000 USD when that car goes for like 160, $170,000 all day long. And on the Carfax, it shows it has no accidents. They have the
Mm.
full service records. So everything, I drove it, it felt fine. Everything felt like fine. And it was like literally below wholesale for that car. And just my intuition told me to walk away from that deal because these people reached out to me and said, hey, Jesse, I have like this super, super cheap Ferrari. Like, why don't you just buy it? It's perfect. Like, nothing wrong with it. We just have to move inventory. And I literally just turned it down without even finding anything wrong with it because I'm like, hey, if it's worth 160 and they're selling for 145, I will understand. But they're selling it for like 115, right? So I just based on that alone, even though I didn't find out what was wrong, I walked away from it. And later on,
Yeah.
one of my friends that owns a shop that did an inspection on that car told me that the owner of the dealership drove it across like multiple like curbs or something, and there's a hole at the bottom. And the person that replaced that's trying to fix it went and got like a second hand like Porsche Cayenne, cut the bottom off, and then like patched the hole out of bottom of the Ferrari like that. So that car has a risk of like snapping in half if you drive it too hard.
Wow.
So I found out about that after the fact,
That's right.
like 2 weeks after I turned it down.
Yeah.
So, follow your instincts. If you think it's too good to be
Yeah.
true, it most definitely is.
Yeah.
None of these people are giving away stuff or selling you things and giving you a good price for charity. If they're like, hey, I'm just trying to let it go, well, they can send it off to an auction house, right? And sell their cards and lose like even if they lose like 12, 13% fees. They're still better doing that than selling it to you for 30%, right? So
Right.
again, like what your case, the 360 or so is, I feel like just on the verge, but I do think that is too good to be true. But the good
Yeah.
thing is you protect yourself um with the payment process. So, and you trusted the guy references. So that's more understandable. But there's a lot of people that I would say have great reputations in the hobby that decided to pull an exit scam because their life circumstances changed.
Right.
And that's a
It's
very
very
common thing in the crypto world, in the business world, in the car world, in real estate, in yachts and collect everywhere, right? People with
yeah.
good reputations, or maybe they're not bad people before, but their circumstances have changed and it's forced them to try and come up with the liquidity as much as possible. And because we're leaving the community anyways, like in Pokemon, if you leave the Pokemon community, like if your reputation is terrible in the Pokemon community and you leave it, no one else is gonna care about it because it's such a niche
Right.
community. Like if you're a real estate agent, for example, and you scam a bunch of people in the Pokemon community and you leave that community, people in real estate are not gonna know. So in their head, they're thinking, hey, like I'm gonna like leave this hobby anyway. I might as well scam a few people and leave. There's a lot of exit scams in the hobby that I've learned about. So just checking the references is not enough.
Apparently.
Yeah, so You got to be careful, even with people with big names, and getting into the AI world now. Like we're heading into a time where even if the person sounds legit or looks legit, it might be an impersonator. So it's getting really scary now because the technology will be good enough for me to sit here and look at you and not know if you're actually Poke-san, right? So
I'm not.
that's scary, right? It's just the scamming industry is just growing stronger and stronger. And
Oh, I know.
yeah,
There's AI technology that can mimic your voice literally. You just type in
yeah,
what it says, you record
exactly.
another person's voice for one long segment, and then it will just emulate it perfectly.
And you can have a conversation with it too. There is no like time lapse. You just talk to the person sounds exactly like the person you're talking to. So, but bottom line is we're all gonna get scammed a couple times in our lives. The most important thing, I don't think anyone that's a grown up can say I've never been scammed before. It just
Yeah.
you have to learn from your mistakes and learn from not like to not get scammed next time.
Yeah. Protect
Yeah.
yourself whenever you make a transaction. If they're suggesting Venmo, Zelle, and not goods and service, cover the goods and service fee and see what their reaction is. Because if you cover the
Mhm.
goods and service fee, then there should be no reason for them to deny it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a very
asking
good point. Yeah.
asking for references is not enough. So you have to pay attention to all the other little details, like Jesse was saying, like all the red
Mhm.
flags that we were talking about earlier. And also, I think it's fair to ask for timestamps with the product and does the photo and ask yourself, does the photo match the description? And to know that they truly have the product in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, the timestamps, even the timestamps are very easily faked nowadays. So far, the Photoshop's timestamps have been like pretty bad. Like these people have not learned how to use Photoshop yet. But but I
That
think
too.
it's always safer to ask for like a timestamp video where they can go into like different angles. And if they're like, oh, I gotta do it when I get home, I'll do it later, then this person is probably fake and he's probably faking it. We've all been scammed multiple times before. I think it's also very important to stay on top of the technology and like what's the newest type of scam so you don't step into it. It just you have there's constantly new ways to scam that comes up. And if you're in this heavy buying and selling space, if you're not on top of it, you're just gonna get scammed over and over again.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. I was looking at PSA 9 Gold Star Charizard, and here's a listing for it on the left for
Mhm.
$4,200 with a person with 100% feedback on eBay. But then when I clicked into his store and I looked closely at his other listings, all the backgrounds are different for each of his individual listing. So
Hmm.
that sends a big red flag is when the same seller who should be taking consistent pictures have all different background pictures on the listing. And so I think this person, even though with 100% feedback, I would take extra caution buying from this person, even though the 4,200 seems like borderline, like a good deal, like where it could be on your
Yeah,
Sir Gold Star.
that's a good
Like,
price point because it's
yeah.
lower where it intrigues you to wanna buy it, but it's not, like, so low that it's, like, too good to be true. So this person is an experienced scammer if he is.
Yeah, whatever he's doing, like, I think just be careful. There's like 72 or 73 bookmarked on the heart. So you can see that, a lot of people are paying attention to it, but nobody is pulling the trigger to buy it. And there's a reason for that. Maybe everybody else has picked up on it, this little detail.
Wow. That's actually a very good point. They have different backgrounds and everything is taken on a different surface. Most likely it's stolen pictures from different sources. That's a
Right.
really good point because that like just looking at that 4,200 and that Charizard, that
Yeah.
probably will fool me at least initially because
Yeah.
it's a good price, but it's also within like reason. So
Right.
yeah,
And the
well,
person has 100%, feedback with like 11. And I looked at the reviews and they all looked recent and they're all like legitimate. or at
Hmm.
least that's what it looked like. So very questionable, and so you really have to be careful and just not use one or two points, like of just the pictures gotta match and everything else the story has to make sense, I guess,
Hmm.
is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say.
No,
This
I
just doesn't
agree.
make sense to me.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good catch. One thing I learned about you is you're such a great detective. I think if you made a YouTube channel, just finding out things that about different people, different scams, you probably be better than Rattle.
I
I
don't know about
I
that.
I really think so because you are so good at finding different details and you're so detail oriented that you notice things that like I watch the same videos and I would never notice. So that's crazy.
I appreciate that. I think that mostly comes from my background as an ICU nurse. Paying attention to detail is sort of my in my job description. So
Yeah.
so I think that's where I got that from, is just
Wow.
to pay attention to every single little thing and pattern recognition.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a talent.
thank you. So one other thing I just want to touch on briefly is to always video record
Mhm.
your openings. I virtually record all my openings as a consumer
Mhm.
of valuable products that's $500 or more,
Yes.
or from a questionable seller that has zero feedback, for example.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, is that something that you do ever, or do you
Absolutely,
usually
every
buy?
single time. Even
Okay.
when I sell stuff, like, to avoid confusion, because like, things might happen during transit, and it's
Yeah.
happened to me multiple times when I buy stuff. So far, like, knock on wood, not when I sell stuff, but anytime we sell a high value item, we have an uncut video, um, start to finish. Let me just show, we just actually did that, with the PSA 9 Gold Star Rayquaza that we recorded, um,
Yeah,
that we
I
just
think
checked out.
that's so important. It's the uncut video, right? From start
Yeah.
to finish.
Yeah, so, like, we have this video of just recording the whole packaging, um, from start to finish, and yeah, uncut. So there's absolutely no, like, ambiguity. Like, it's just that we show the card at the beginning, and then we put it in, and the whole packaging process, including the sealing process, just so in case, like, let's say it's stolen and ripped open during transit, like, when
Mhm.
you receive it, it's not us because we actually have the picture of us dropping it off as well. So CJ just dropped off that package. It's like a $9,200 card, right? So this
Yeah,
is
so you
not,
gotta
yeah. So we already have a picture of this sent
so you
to the
have 2
buyer
videos.
as well.
One video
Yes.
of the packaging and then the video of drop off.
Yeah. So this is to protect ourselves as well because we sell these high value items.
Yeah.
And also like I hate to say there's the other way of scamming. There's some people that receive the item and then they claim that they didn't, or they
Yeah.
claim that it was like shipped empty or something like that. Like you always want to protect yourself from that as well.
Yeah. And I feel like you can even take that one step further by, just sort of packaging it, get all the packaging ready, bring it along with you in the car to the post office, and then package it there and then drop it off. So one video from start to finish, just sealing it up, showing the card, and
Yeah.
then just dropping it right off too.
We did that for one of our big trades back in the day, where at the time, like we're still not as established with our reputation in the community as we are now. Maybe it's like a while back, and we recorded the whole. We actually FaceTime the guy, showing him like everything here, boom, sealed, dropped it off at the location, and then left. Right, so that's
Yeah.
something that you have to do. Right now, we don't really have to do that anymore. Like people ship me like 5 6 figure collections before they even receive the money now. Like we just
Yeah.
bought
People
a
trust you.
yeah, we bought a big 5 figure packs collection, and like CJ has not transferred the money yet, and it's already arriving very soon. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. I'll just ship it to you. Like Wolfie ships me all the stuff. Like, so there's one time I received like the pristine 10 Metagross Gold Star, I think, When I received it, I was like, "Oh man, I forgot to send you the money." And then he's like, "Oh, don't worry, like, don't worry, like, I know you're
You know,
good
you'll
for it."
get. He knows you'll
Yeah,
eventually get to it. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, "Damn,"
You're good for the
because I
money.
buy so many different things, right? Sometimes you like, I forget I bought a certain. Sometimes I receive it, it's like, "Oh, I bought this," and sometimes like I was like, "Oh shit, I should have paid for it," and I forgot. So it was kind of both ways. I bought something from Polkatrav a while ago, and then
Oh,
I got a message saying like your attempted delivery is now like contact seller to reschedule delivery, and I couldn't figure out like who the seller is because it just says like Colorado. So I posted on my account. I was like, hey, like if you live in
I remember
Colorado
that.
and sold me something, like I can't figure out who it is or what it was because I thought I already had everything. Like contact me, and then I figured it out. It was the Pop Series 5 packs I bought from him. But yeah, it just happens so often now that like most people are very comfortable with shipping me stuff without me even paying for it. But before you build that reputation, you still have to um yeah, you still have to take the videos. And even to the people that trust me so much, like I would not advise anybody to do that with anybody else, even with myself, you know, like even if this person is as reputable or on the surface as comfortable as they seem, you still want to take the proper precautions to protect
Yeah.
yourselves. So
Yeah.
even with me,
Exactly.
it's even if you sell me something, that's still not advised. It's still better for you to take everything and treat me just like any other person. So
Yeah, and it's just there to protect your reputation if anything should arise, and I think that's totally reasonable. It's it doesn't take much to record a video
yeah,
of packaging
exactly.
things up.
Yeah. All
Um,
right.
but yeah, I think that really concludes everything we wanted to touch on. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I think so. This is a very value packed episode. I think we both had so much to get off our chest, and it just I wish I had more time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jesse. And that is the end of our podcast episode 6. And we are sponsored by Slabmax. And Slabmax can fit tag,
Say
PSA,
CGC, CGC.
CGC, a wide variety of different colors. Make sure to check out slabmax.com and be sure to use our code POKESMP for 10% off.
All right. Thank you so much.
Alrighty. See you guys next time.
See you guys next time.